We got a bear problem out here, and we're gonna show you how we fix that. What's up guys, Brad here from Piney Grove, and 14 years ago I got on this property with 3 other Air Force veterans to hunt white-tailed deer. But the problem we found immediately was that when we were using corn feeders was that the bears would actually climb our trees or whatever we used to hold up our corn feeder, and they would pull them down. So we had to come up with some innovative ways to keep that from happening. And that's what we're going to do in today's video. Show you 3 different ways to keep bears out of your feeder. So it all starts with some sort of structure to hold up the feeder. And in this case, we bought a used telephone pole. Now you can normally go to your local co-ops and buy telephone poles. Usually it's around $1 a foot, so you can try that avenue. Or you could put in a 4x4, but we tend to like the round poles better. They're cheaper, and also you can get them a lot longer so that you can get your feeder a lot higher. You need a fairly tall pole because you want the bottom of that feeder to be no less than 8 foot tall. So I'm 6 foot tall, I can reach up to about 8, so I want the bottom of the feeder, the very, very bottom of the feeder, to be taller than the top of my hand. But later in the video, I'm also going to show you 2 other ways that we get our feeders pretty high. So the most important thing is have a nice sturdy pole, and this pole I actually hand dug with post hole diggers, and I put in a fair size hole, and I probably have 4 if not 6 bags of concrete in this hole, so that way the bears can't shake it. And that's what they like to do. They like to go up to feeder poles and they like to shake them because the gate in the bottom of a feeder will let a little bit of corn come by. So the very first thing you want is something very sturdy that they can't shake. So we got that with this. This isn't going anywhere. Bears can climb trees, so having a pole wasn't enough. Putting the feeder high wasn't enough because they would just climb up the pole, climb out on the end of whatever apparatus you are using to hold your feeder away from the pole, and then they would just grab the feeder and with their weight just pull it down and then break hundreds of dollars worth of your equipment. So what we went to was a piece of sheet metal. I actually found this alongside the road. It had blown out of someone's scrap pile, I guess, but it is a 10 foot, 12 foot long piece of sheet metal wrapped around the pole, and there are bear claw marks all up and down this sheet metal, but they just can't climb it. They can't get their claws in here. Now in the past, we wrapped it in what's called flashing, kind of like a candy cane going up there, and eventually, because that's not as thick a material, the bears were actually able to get their claws in that flashing and work their way up the pole. So this is what we went to. Again, this was many years and evolution of trying to find out things that worked, and what we found is a nice stiff piece of tin that's not firmly attached to the pole, and what I mean by that is the tin is bigger around than the pole, so it has some give to it. And they can't reach up there, they can't hook their claws around the top of the tin, they can't get their claws in here to climb it. And this one has been here probably 6 or 8 years, and it's never had an issue with bears, and there's bears in this food plot almost daily. So once you've got some sort of pole or tree or some sort of structure to hold your feeder up high, let me show you what we use next to actually hang the feeder and allow you to lower it and lift it up. So what we use to hang our feeders, to lower them down and pick them up so you can fill them, is the Moultrie Hanging Feeder Hoist. It's got a 300-pound capacity, and it's got a winch that you use to raise and lower your feeder, and it also has chains that attach it to the tree. But I'm also going to show you how we attach it directly to the pole with a long 3/8 bolt like this that you can get in any hardware store. I'm going to climb to the top of this feeder pole and show you how we attach this hoist to the pole. So that's the hoist system. It's an L-shaped or sort of L-shaped bracket. It has a pulley on the end there. It has a winch here, and then it has a chain right there, which you put around a tree or a pole. But what we found is that these are permanent structures for us. So we go ahead and drill this out right here and put that long bolt all the way through the hole. You have this winch right here is a typical boat or trailer winch. You have a galvanized cable that goes down to your feeder, and you just use this to raise and lower your feeder. This hoist will hold 300 pounds, so you can actually use like a metal drum and fill it, full of 100 pounds, 150 pounds of feed. But what we've chosen to do, instead of buying an expensive metal drum feeder, is we bought a pool chemical bucket that we've cleaned out really good. We spray painted the outside so the UV rays don't make the plastic brittle, and then we attached a chain and some threaded rod to it so we can lift it up. It'll hold about 75 pounds or so. And you can see where I've put a piece of 3/4 threaded rod in there that I got from Lowe's. I bought a short length of chain, and then I took one of the lengths of chains and I pounded it so that it's round so that this hook will fit through it. And at the bottom, I mounted a Moultrie Pro feeder. Okay, the first 50 pounds in. It looks like I got room for about 25 more pounds. Now that it's full of corn, we'll go ahead and set the timer. This style bear-proof feeder is all set, ready to go. Let's go over to some of my other plots and show you 2 other ways you can do the same thing. I'm in a different food plot, but it's the same type of feeder here. The light's a little better, so I thought I'd show you this one. Same design, telephone pole, tin wrapped around the pole, and a feeder bracket bolted into the pole. Now that bracket up there actually is not a Moultrie, that's what's called a Viking. I don't even know if they've made them anymore, but we'll put a link to the Moultrie one down below. You can get it on Amazon. I'm in another food plot, and this is an example of using a tree instead of a pole. So you can see this pine tree behind me is wrapped in metal, and you don't see any sort of gantry at the top. You can actually use that Moultrie hoist on this tree, but what we used to use is we used to make a wooden gantry. And I'll throw up some pictures here. I actually took the one down here because the wood was starting to rot, and this worked well for about 5 or 6 years. But this was 100% completely bear-proof. Tons of bears in this particular area, and they would be up against here trying to climb it, but they never were able to get up to the feeder and pull it down. Just wrap something in tin and then put the actual gantry or hoist above the tin. So even though the tree's exposed, the bears were never able to climb this one. All right, this is the last feeder type that we have that we call as bear-proof. Now this one is not as good as the other ones because the bears can actually shake it, but let me get in closer here and show you how we prevent them from climbing this pole. So the biggest issue with this type of feeder pole is that the handle, if it's left here, gives the bears something to get up a little higher. I don't know how tall it is up there to the very top, but I'm gonna say we're pushing 14 feet. So the bottom of the feeder is probably right at 10 feet or so. This one goes up pretty high, but the bears can shake it and get a little bit of corn. I actually ran a wire from the feeder, or a bungee cord, I forget which, so that as the feeder went up, as you winched it up, it stayed attached on the feeder pole side. So it couldn't sway too much with the wind. It's real windy out here right now. But if it sways too much with the wind, or if the bears can shake it, then they'll dribble out a little bit of corn out of it, and then they'll just sit here all day and push it all day until they get a few bits of corn out of it. So this one's bear-proof, but it's not as bear-proof as the other ones we've shown you. That's gonna do it for today's video, folks. Hopefully you enjoyed it. If you did, please click the like button, subscribe if you haven't already, and share with your friends. But otherwise, that's all I've got. So until the next one, y'all take care out there. And remember, life is short. Get out and enjoy our great outdoors. A feeder to be no lower, uh-oh,